our Board of Education meeting on December 1st. Yay, happy December.
Hi, come on in.
Lori, would you like to take
Yes,
roll call?
Mrs. Berger,
Yes,
Mr.
here.
Burns.
Here.
Mr. Hunt.
Here.
Mrs. Slate.
Here.
Mrs. Wood.
Here. Any public comment? Okay. On to our recognition of guests. That's part of the meeting. Can you turn it over to Mr. Kaiser?
Yeah, the first one is Ronnie. You want to come on up here? I'm Ronnie Blazer with the Christmas card that was chosen by the district. And, get some cards in here. Oh, I want you to hold this up. We're going to get a picture with you.
Do you want to go back
You
here?
guys, we can go back here. Yeah. Starting to press.
Hello.
Come on up.
Hi.
I'll slide it back.
You're getting right in the middle here.
Come on up.
We won't see you in the back.
That's all right. That's okay. I'm good with that.
This is Mom's camera. 1, 2, 3. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
That's exactly right.
Sorry, one more.
I bet there's another one after that.
3 more.
Congratulations. It's a beautiful card.
Beautiful.
Can we stay here? Come back upstairs. Huh?
Yeah, just after. But aside from the card, I know Ronnie did also the USS Nightmare. You guys won that competition where it would go down and design like makeup for you designed a character, right? And they actually used the character in USS Nightmare. And so, a talented artist.
Fabulous, yeah.
Next up, we have the Superintendent Award for December, Mr. Logan Sisko. He was nominated by Mr. Justin Fletcher, so come on up, Mr. Sisko. Now he has to stand up here and listen to this. I'll go quickly. Logan is the kind of department leader. He's the Social Studies Department chair who cuts through the fluff and gets straight to the point, creating an environment where everyone knows exactly where they stand. His no-nonsense approach is both effective and grounded. And he has an incredible ability to balance realism with a positive attitude that inspires the team. Rather than sugarcoating issues or avoiding tough conversations, Logan tackles challenges head-on with a tell-it-like-it-is style that fosters clear communication and mutual respect. The straightforwardness combined with his realistic optimism infuses our meetings with a refreshing energy that makes him not only productive, but something genuinely to look forward to. His leadership creates a space where we can be honest, focused, and motivated, making each meeting a time for growth and collaboration. Congratulations.
Yeah, congratulations.
That's the first thing.
Don't forget his.
Your trophy.
Don't forget it's what?
His trophy.
Oh,
Designed by
I thought that was
the
my trophy.
middle school idea lab students. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Congratulations, great job.
Mr. Sisko is notorious for his AP classes. I will, he might be the first one here every day. I think getting here probably between 5:30 and 6 or 6 and 6:30, somewhere around there.
6:30, 6:45.
But here early, grading papers, religiously grading papers and giving feedback, like direct feedback, the feedback I think our kids need to get prior to leaving Beechwood. I think he probably prepares any kid who goes through his classes for college better than anyone. So a valuable asset to Beechwood, the school, but also the community. You do a really good job with our kids, making sure they're ready. So thank you.
Okay, we already did public comment already, I guess, because I skipped over it. Okay, on to discussion and action agenda.
Do you want to tell them they can leave and something like that?
Oh, what's that?
Do you want to tell them they can leave if they want to?
Oh, the group
Oh,
meeting.
yes.
Like they can leave if they want to.
And we don't really have anybody else, but
Yeah, if you guys don't wanna stay around for the
We're
meeting,
having
you
to
can
stay.
leave.
Yeah. Stay. However, this is your time to exit if you would like, or just stay here for this riveting meeting. Totally up to you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Nice to meet you all.
I mean, it might be entertaining, but I
Yeah.
don't know.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
On to our proposed school calendar. It's just the first reading. Do you have anything to add about that?
First read, we changed kind of the system of how we would do calendars. Last spring, this was put together by the calendar committee as a draft that we would almost chisel in stone for the first reading to occur December and second reading January, so we can get that approved a little earlier than normal. And then, so this upcoming spring, we'll do the same thing with the 27, 28. So breaks, you see the fall break, the first full week of October. And you see the spring break spring break can be earlier. It has the first days of April in it, and fall break is the first full week in October. To keep it can be later. So we like a on time or late fall break, or an on time or early spring break. Everything else kind of starts the same. You see the 2 full weeks of winter break. Last day of school is prior to the holiday.
So the end of March for spring break?
Yeah, the 29th through April 2nd.
Did we typically do the first full week or no?
It
all last
bounced
year.
back, yeah, we finally we locked in place that spring break could start at the end of March.
So
Isn't it
it's not
always
gonna be-
April 1st, wherever April 1st
Wherever
falls?
April 1st falls, yes.
That's what the rule is gonna be.
It can be early or on time for spring break. Fall break,
It's gonna be
can
the
be
first full week.
first full week of fall. It gives time for everybody to get
After Labor Day
routines
to Memorial
before
Day.
a week off. An earlier spring break allows for a little bit more time between spring break and testing.
Do you remember that rationale?
Okay. Okay, on to our next item. The purchase of third-party natural gas, we'll take a motion to approve that. I got kicked offline.
I'll make a motion.
I second.
Do you have anything you wanna add about
We have one gas line here that we've been approached for a few years now. The gas line for this third party, Stand Energy Corporation, they only approach gas lines that use enough to have savings. If it does not, so we have other gas lines here. We have 2 other gas lines here that we do not use enough, and they would not generate the savings that we would make it viable to even consider. And so they've done a year-long study on how much gas that we use, and based on their calculations and the upcoming prices that Duke is planning to put forth, somewhere between $9,000 and $10,000 in savings. And any time we don't save money, they stop and we go back to
that? So it
Duke.
doesn't cost us?
No,
Does
we
not
don't cost us
Okay,
anything.
okay.
Right.
Because the last proposed, I think it did cost or something, okay.
They go
No.
back to the,
They'll kick us off of it if we're not using
And
it.
then will they go back and like reevaluate after a year of that, or?
they'll continue to do that as long as they're saving.
Because we haven't had a full year yet of the new facility, right?
Right, we're wondering how much gas usage we'll have now with the new building in play, but they're offering the discount, so we're gonna take it
Mhm.
until they kick us off,
Okay.
which they may or may not, depending on our usage, so. Because the rates are going up a lot for everybody, residential and commercial, just know that. So everyone in the region is gonna have a significant uptick in their gas, if they have gas heat.
But the other gas lines will go up too.
Yeah, everything, yeah, it's gonna be
I mean,
everything,
it's
will,
not
yeah, exactly.
Just that one we're picking out.
Right, all of them will go up.
Based on usage.
Yeah, based on usage, right, because it's the delivery fee, I think is what they said.
But it's based on usage, not cost.
Correct.
Yeah.
Usage.
Okay, anybody else have any questions?
All right, Mrs. Berger,
Yes.
Mr. Burns.
Yes.
Mr. Hood.
Yes.
Mrs. Slate.
Yes.
Mrs. Whitten.
Yes. Motion carries. On to our consent agenda. I'll take a motion to approve consent agenda as written.
I will approve the consent agenda as written.
Second.
On the consent agenda, one of those, obviously the one that we've talked about, I know I've talked with Jeannie about this, board chair and individually with each of you a little bit about, I know we've talked about this in the summertime as well, about tuition and how do we kind of maintain tuition as costs have risen over the past 10, 15 years, how we look at to make sure our tax rates in district have increased as well. What have we looked at tuition to match that? So that proposal was for an $800 increase across the board for current tuition students for next year and for new tuition families for next year. So this would go into effect in July of 26 for an $800 increase across the board, whether it be in-state or out-of-state. So that will, I think, keep pace and be an appropriate amount as we look at our surrounding districts and surrounding schools that do charge a tuition fee. We still are well below what they charge. And so felt it appropriate to do so at this point in time.
When was the last time we increased tuition, do you know?
I think within the past 5 years, and there was a
2 years ago.
$200 increase.
It was like 300 last time.
Wow.
It might be, yeah, sounds right. 38 to 4,100 is what I kind of recall,
Yeah.
so it sounds right to me.
And so, looking forward at the future, I know that based on this year's increase, we may look at the same type of increase next December, based on how things go from between now and next year. The capital funds request, CFR, those are funds tied to our ADA. Those funds are restricted. If you request to pull them down into capital outlay, you can then use them for a specified reason. We'd like to pull those down and use those for property insurance. Another one on the list, the grant from Camp Rosso Cares Fund at the Horizon Community Foundation, Northern Kentucky. The Redfields, Camp Rosso, just deciding to give back to their community. They're a great family, they're great support. Camp Rosso, Beechwood, really appreciative. Eric is very passionate about education, so is Amy. Just very fortunate they feel that way towards us, so we welcome their fund. That's $10,000.
Great. That is nice.
Yes.
Anything else you want to know? Anybody else have any other questions on the consent agenda?
I don't think so.
Kyle?
No.
Okay.
Good.
Mrs. Berger?
Yes.
Mr. Burns?
Yes.
Mr. Hood?
Yep.
Mrs. Slate?
Yes.
Mrs. Wood?
Yes.
Okay, motion carries on to superintendent's report.
All right, assessment and accountability update. Dr. Schobel, who works very closely with assessment and accountability as our district assessment coordinator, works closely with each building. We were able to do a lot of this work in high school. Now be able to do this with both buildings and oversee it over the district. Could be in better hands than Sarah, so excited for her to share the report. It's going to be kind of an overview of strengths, some areas for growth, opportunity for growth, and then next steps. So what are we going to do about it?
Hey everyone, really just presenting on behalf of the team here. Everyone plays a role in state testing, assessment, and accountability. We really emphasize that everyone, even if they're not in a testing grade level, even if they're in a support role, they play a major part in our students' success. So this is everyone. I will say too, I'm going to try to be brief and hit the highlights. You do have the full longer presentation and spreadsheet with all of the details at every grade level in comparison and different ways to look at it. If at any point you have questions, we're always happy to help and go over that. So first, just some summary data. I wanted to kind of get into assessment and accountability, what goes into that. So we put out there and published that we're blue, we earned the highest rating, that type of thing, but what goes into that, what does that really mean? So just so you know, what's included in the scores, there's a reading and math score, so they combine those. These are all formulas set by the state. There's a science, social studies, and writing score that goes into each level. Then the students take, when they take state testing, the first thing they do is they take a quality of school climate and safety survey. And so we get a score for that as well from our students. That's also really good information for us because it allows us to see trends, good information for the schools to see about what kids think about safety, what they think about, do adults at my school care about me, things like that. So that is a very helpful piece of information. Then the access testing is our English learners, which Ms. Rudy presented last month. They take something called the access test to assess their English progress. And so that factors into our assessment and accountability score too. So it's not just the state testing as far as Kentucky Summative Assessment. However, you will only see that on our elementary scores because you have to have 30 kids in the grade band for it to be reportable. The reason for that, the state sets that as well, is so if you only have a few kids, that score is not reported publicly for just a few kids where potentially they could figure out who those kids were. So elementary had last year over 30, so they have a reportable part of the score. Then high school also has two indicators outside of the Kentucky Summative Assessment, and that's post-secondary readiness. So that is how do we get our kids ready to leave us, which is a very important role at Beechwood. And so they can achieve that through things like the ACT, which will now be the SAT, through the Coyote assessment. There's also some industry certifications they can get. There's also time put in through work-based learning. And so we'll get to that with high school. Because this is the first year they've had 100% of the kids leave us and achieve post-secondary readiness. So that's huge. So that factors into the score too. And then graduation rate, again, we'll get to, but that's always a strong indicator for Beechwood. So these slides were sent to you. I want to spend more time focusing on the strengths and growth areas, but just to hit each level. So this is from the district level, Beechwood Elementary, 3rd through 5th grade. So our school goes to 6th grade, but when the state looks at the district level, they're just looking at the traditional elementary grades. So that's the 3rd through 5th here to compare us to other elementary levels. So that is blue. And you can see here percentage of schools earning a blue rating at the elementary level, where we rank of all the elementary schools, and then the details here about what went into that blue score. You don't have to worry too much about that because like Justin said, we want to talk about what we're doing with it, but really for each of those indicators, there's a status rating and then there's a change rating. So that's kind of how were they achieving and then how did it compare to previous years. And then you see the English learners piece that only our elementary level has. So again, we'll get into highlights in a minute. Middle grades, 6th through 8th for us. So that's 6th grade from Beechwood Elementary and 7th and 8th from Beechwood High School. And you see there 7th middle school in Kentucky, which is great. They were well over the minimum needed to earn blue. So they were well into the blue category, which is great. And then the high school level, 15th in Kentucky, you see here too, quite a bit into the blue category, highlighted it already, but huge that post-secondary readiness, that 100% of our graduates had achieved that, showing that they're ready for either college and or career. And then the graduation rate, 97.2%. Those things, you might remember we had Senate Bill 128. There's a couple of different factors, some things with special education, things like that where students get some different types of diplomas, things outside of Beechwood's control that sometimes lower that number. So this is not because of any of our students not achieving graduation status. There's just some that don't qualify per the state definition that's out of our control in graduating in 4 years. Strengths and growth areas. So now we'll get into the details a bit more. Elementary. So some strengths first, things that they're proud of, and the principals weighed in on this with our instructional cabinet team as well. So a couple ways to look at it. Sometimes you can look at it like third grade to third grade every year. How's third grade doing? Then there's another way to look at it, what we call cohorts, is the same group of kids. So when they're in third grade and take reading, then when they get to fourth grade and take reading, then fifth grade and take reading, are they making improvement, that same group of kids? That's what I'm talking about here. So this example over here on the right shows you this is the same group of kids, our current sixth graders, third grade reading and math. And I know this is probably a reminder for you all, so forgive me, but PD is proficient or distinguished. The state's goal is for every kid to be at least proficient. So there's 4 levels. They want them to be proficient or distinguished. So that's a pretty common way to look at the kids who achieve proficient or distinguished. So when you see P or D, that's what that means. So you can see here third grade reading and math. Then when they move to fourth grade, the growth, and then continued growth in fifth grade. So that's that group of kids, same group of kids testing. Of course, there might be a few who came in and out, but for the most part, same group of kids making great growth. So that's something elementary is very proud of. We also look at how our kids are performing compared to state averages for each test. So fifth grade reading, how did our kids do compared to the average in the state? Typically Beechwood's above the state average, of course, but it's kind of telling when you look at, are we just 10 points above the state or are we 35 points above the state, and see what strengths and growth areas. So elementary average 22.5% above the state in kids scoring proficient or distinguished, which is great. Third grade growth, you may remember that was an area of growth for us last year, an area that elementary and all of us, were working on. The proficient and distinguished wasn't there like we wanted. There was more novice, the lowest level, than we wanted, and so they have made progress this year. And so proud of that, but continued work to do. Fourth grade science was the #1 district in the state for percent proficient and distinguished. That's pretty amazing. Even there's schools, magnet schools, things like that included in that. And so very proud of that. Ms. Fuller and Ms. Sturgeon teach fourth grade science. So that was a great accomplishment. Something that elementary admin brought up that probably contributed to some of the success and growth this year is now we're getting into a couple of years of consistent resources, which very grateful to the board for supporting with getting HMH for reading and vision for math, so that all the grade levels are aligned with that curriculum. They're building year to year, not having gaps, things like that. So thank you for your support of that, because I think that's been helpful. Areas of growth, third grade, we said improvement this year, but there's still work to do. That's still an area of growth for us. They're already making some tweaks, some things on working short answer responses, things like that. We've all already been in this year helping with that and getting live scoring. So great action steps seen already, because they know that's an area of continued growth. Fifth grade social studies and writing, not an emergency, but just kind of plateauing or not quite where it was before. So keeping an eye on those 2 areas and working with those teachers on what they can do. One example, the fifth grade teacher, Ms. Sharp, for writing, she was already looking at the state list of who did score above us, and can we contact them and get ideas of what they do, that type of thing. English learners, this isn't for state testing, just in general. This is something, as Tiffany talked about last month, that's a continued focus area for us. Our English learner population is growing. As you can imagine, when a newcomer comes and can't speak English and is in a classroom all day, that's a tough situation. So as much as we can support and give resources to that area, it's something we want to continue to do. And elementary is having team meetings this week to dive into the data with the teachers and really look at grade level specifics. This is very, very high level today and some highlights, but really looking at every test, every grade level, not just from a trend standpoint, but also every individual kiddo, and looking at who's making progress. We have every individual on a data sheet. This is just one piece of data. We have a lot of others. Any questions on elementary? Middle, I'll stop at the end too if you have questions. So 6th through 8th grade. Some strengths, 7th and 8th grade math. This is really exciting. 7th grade was 40% above the state average of proficient and distinguished. And 8th grade, 30. 7th grade was the number 2 district in the state, and 8th grade the number 1 district in the state for math. A couple of you who have been around or listening to this data for a while, middle grades used to be an area, seeing nods, that we were concerned about. That was an area of growth for us, and we were really looking at how do we get the middle school aligned, how do we get their resources aligned, how do we get them collaborating, and this is huge, and that's just one piece, but a lot of that work for years has paid off. And so I think that's great, and really just a testament to the people who work with those kids, the teachers and staff we have in those roles now. I think it was a bit of work getting people in the right places and with the right vision and bringing expertise to the table. So very proud of that. 7th grade science made great growth. 8th grade social studies made great growth. Middle grades averaged 26.9 above the state percent of proficient and distinguished. That's pretty incredible. Again, consistent resources, so that HMH and Envision starting in elementary, going up through the middle grades, really consistent through 9th grade. So that is huge. However, always wanting to work to improve. Sometimes there's groups of kiddos that have additional needs. It could be English learners, could be students with IEPs, could be other things. And the last year's 6th graders, who are now our 7th graders, there's just a lot of high needs in that group. How do we continue to support those needs? And that's really, I think we all believe in, it's about individual kiddos. Like we can look at these big trends, but looking at how do we support them, who wasn't performing maybe as well as they could, who need some additional intervention, that type of thing. And so now they've transferred to the high school building, so perfect opportunity to collaborate and look at that group of kiddos. 8th grade reading and writing comparison, when looking at those grades compared to the state averages, the margin isn't quite as high as when we're looking at average. On average, this is what we are above the state. Those margins aren't quite as high, so some room for improvement there. And then looking at previous year results too. Again, already action steps taken with teachers going to some training on writing, things like that. Also collaborating with other content areas. Things about reading and writing are, it's not just an English class. You're using that in science and social studies and that type of thing. So already taken steps there, and we'll continue to do so. Middle grades work sessions, we started, 6-7 years ago, and that's really powerful here. The opportunity to get 5th and 6th grade from the elementary and 7th and 8th grade from the high school together to collaborate on their content, what they're teaching, strategies, resources, and we even include our high school department chairs like Mr. Cisco to kind of help. They just did this 2 weeks ago, and so then the department chair in the high school can see what the middle grades are doing and weigh in as well, so that we're really looking at that alignment all the way up. Training for teachers we talked about. Smeckens is a very well-known writing training. Again, we had people from both buildings going. Then they also came back and did a session on the PD day to share out with staff. So really proud. I feel like this year has been strides with both buildings, and that's not just coming from admin, that's teachers. Both buildings really working together, collaborating, sharing with one another, going to training together, and so I think that will be helpful as well. And again, elementary team meetings for 6th grade will meet this week to dive into the data.
I think you see a lot of that middle school growth as a result of those middle grades work sessions. Those 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade teachers all kind of sharing responsibility, and then making sure articulation with no gaps, and so the prep is there. It's intentional, it's aligned. So we're starting to see results through that consistent collaboration, and having strong people in those spots too. A combination of all those is really, that's why you're seeing some of this. It's great.
I'm going backwards, but another really neat thing that's been, I think, a change is we talk about needs, and there's certain groups with needs, or English learners, or IEPs, or 504s, or other things, but also something that wasn't always a focus area before is we also have gifted learners and high-end achievers, or even those in the middle. Every kid needs the opportunity to grow from where they are, and so it's not just like, oh, you're doing well, you're good. We're going to focus on those maybe not achieving as much. And so between Ashley, Jessica, Jessica, and just teachers, here with these awesome middle grades math results. Ms. Brockett immediately was like, I'm really excited about this, but man, like I realized that I need to push those higher end more because they're not growing as much as I'd like. And so just that reflective practice of even if it's great results, what can we do better, I think is wonderful. Middle school question?
So do you see overall statewide that middle school came up, or is it unique to Beechwood that our middle school came up? Because middle school has always been like our, I don't want to say struggle, because we do well, but it's just like been lower than high school and elementary. So
Agree. Definitely better for us. So like these
40, 30
averages
plus.
compared to the state, we were never that far above the state. Sorry, what did you say, Jessica?
So you look at those 40 and 30 of the math. I mean, the gap, that's what you do is measure that gap. And the gap you see in the middle grades is a little better than what you see at high school and elementary. So we're outpacing the rest of the state.
And there's strong groups that come through and that type of thing, but I feel like we're starting to see where it's not a one-time correct, that we're seeing a positive trend in the middle school, not just 1 year.
Good news.
It is, yeah. High school, areas of strength, 10th grade math, 35 above the state, percent proficient and distinguished. I could say this about another point in a minute. Sometimes as students get older, it becomes harder for them to be motivated for the state test because they're thinking about things like ACT. That helps me with college. That helps me with scholarship. Why do I care about the KSA? That can be difficult. So to see things like our sophomores and juniors really doing well, I think is huge. And the high school math team does a great job, so that was wonderful to see that pay off. Overall, the subjects and grades for high school averaged 21.3 above the state percent of proficient and distinguished. Juniors, this is the other one where I was going to say about the motivation. So if you look at the spreadsheet in reading and math, the last time that they took reading and math on state testing was in 8th grade. And to see a higher percentage score on proficient or distinguished in 10th grade than they did in 8th grade on both reading and math. So they did better as sophomores as far as percent proficient distinguished than they did in 8th grade. That was really neat to see that they're still growing, still putting that work in. So very proud of them there. Areas of growth, 11th grade science. So you might remember that science was so low across the state for the last couple of years to where most schools couldn't even publicly report their score because there was too few scoring proficient and distinguished. So they redid the science assessment this spring. So for May 2025, the science assessment was redone, then they re-normed it. So it is hard when you look at that spreadsheet or the slides, the full presentation, to compare because they redid the assessment and re-normed it. So you really can't look at previous years and say, oh, we grew 30% because the test has been updated. They took feedback on it, less reading on it before people felt like it was kind of a reading test. So they made some updates, re-normed it. And so we did show growth. But it's still not as high as other subjects. And so working to understand the updated test, it's the first year, so learning more about that. The high school did some comparisons of students' ACT scores in science to the state test. And some might get 35, 36 on science ACT and then not score proficient or distinguished on the state test. And then others do. So something is off there. And so again, looking to better understand the test, what it's asking, how is it similar, how is it different, and then looking at in science courses for juniors. It's not a subject where everybody's in junior English. Some are in physics, some are in chemistry, and that type of thing. And so how do we look at embedding those types of questions into those science courses, which they're doing, but continuing to do that, and really looking at maybe some of the science content, depending which course they're in, they might not have had in a couple years, and it shows up on the state test. So how do we embed some of that practice as well? 11th grade writing was just a dip a bit. Again, last test of 5 for juniors can be a motivation factor, but regardless, writing is something that impacts many, many other areas. So that can be a focus area as well. In the high school, specifically looking at trainings for teachers, the writing one was brought up before, and systems for embedding practice. in something like junior year where we're getting ready for ACT, now it's SAT and state testing, there's a lot. There's also AP classes that they're getting ready for those exams. So they're tested quite a bit. So how do you strategically embed it where they see it as connected and they're just getting practice regularly rather than stopping and now we're prepping for SAT, now we're prepping for AP, now we're prepping for state testing. It's just a part of what they do throughout the year. At the December faculty work session and the December department work sessions, the high school will be digging into this data and talking about next steps. Just other notes, this other notes part does not go into our assessment and accountability score. But I think it's important while on the high school page to remember that state testing is one piece, but there's other pieces that really affect kids' future, and that's AP and ACT. And so AP, again, we've shared this, but 77.8 pass rate, 3 or above. That's a huge piece of information. ACT average for last year's juniors, current seniors, 23.6, highest since COVID. I think a strong group is still great to see improvements in different content areas there. And just another note as far as areas of growth for high school, that transition this year, as a reminder, from ACT to SAT is a big one. And the high school's done a great job of steps with teachers, steps with students, all kinds of prep, torch prep, sessions offered for kids. And so very proud of the work they've done there, but that will be a big transition. Content is content, reading's reading, math is math, but still there's part of it that when it's a different test, different format, that type of thing, that it's a learning curve for teachers and for students. But the other piece of that is communication with families and them understanding opportunities available, understanding test results, that type of thing.
Will the kids still take the ACT though?
Great question, thank you. So the state is no longer requiring ACT at all. We are going to offer for anyone who wants to take ACT as a junior. These current juniors, they've been prepping for that for several years. And so they are required, current juniors are required to take SAT by the state. But we are also offering the ACT for anyone who wants, any junior who wants to take it this spring. That will be 2 weeks after the SAT. So even if they want to take the SAT, see how they feel, and then make a decision kind of last minute to also take the ACT, we're going to offer that.
Is the reason, the state of Kentucky is the one that's going to the SAT.
Yeah.
But other schools will still take the ACT.
That's correct. They'll take either. Yeah. Yeah. The reason that the Kentucky Department of Education told us is they had 2 committees, one looking at financial, one looking at the test itself, and both groups, when they went through that RFP process, decided to go with SAT. So, for cost and for functionality. So, there might be some benefits for some students. It's not as long. There's not as long of passages. They're just one shorter text per question, some things like that. They do not get a separate science test. They get a science score from some of the planned reading and math questions. So there's a few differences. There's more. Those are just a couple of examples. So some students might like it better. Some students might still want to take the ACT. We want to give that opportunity. And then any kiddo can always, on their own, choose to take ACT on a national test date on a Saturday. But we want this year's juniors to all have the opportunity for ACT if they choose.
So are you recommending that we offer ACT moving forward still, or no?
We didn't
Or just to
offer,
evaluate
no, we didn't offer the SAT for
previously?
students who wanted to take the SAT.
Yeah.
So we'll see how this shakes out with the SAT. We just don't want to get assessment heavy on all kiddos.
How soon do you get your result from SAT versus ACT?
Oh,
Will
they
they
have
have their
to-
scores before the ACT happens in 2 weeks?
They will not have their score, but it is sooner based on when you take it. They've already given us the window that you get your scores, so it is but it's not soon
I
enough
know
for
you
that.
don't get it from ACT in 2 weeks. So I
Yeah.
just didn't-
They won't have their score, but they might have a indication of how they feel about it. Yes. Or they just might want to take it regardless because they know, what they were working
Sure.
for on that. And we are giving sophomores the SAT, like we've been doing for, 7 years or so, for them as sophomores to get that real practice and get a real baseline score before they take the junior year for the state.
How many years is this on this type of assessment with the state? This is like the third, they change it every,
The SAT?
no, just assessments, state assessments for grades, for elementary, middle, and high school for the results on these tests. Like how they compare them, like this is probably, is it 3 to 4?
4 or 5. I have it on that spreadsheet.
You know how
We
they
can pull up
change,
in a minute.
well,
Mhm.
I don't know why they change it so frequent, but.
Well, and that was going to
It's
be
hard to.
compare.
Mhm.
This is year 4 or 5, and it's on the spreadsheet. It changes color from when it was K-Prep was the name before to KSA. So it's 4 or 5. I can tell you right after this. I'll get on the spreadsheet. However, that transitions perfectly into my next point. The state testing system possibly could change again. So KDE is taking to legislative session. You might have heard Commissioner Fletcher talk about vibrant learning or local accountability, things like that. They've been working for a couple of years on a model that isn't only about core content state testing, but also about what they call vibrant learning experiences, where kids are getting more hands-on, real-world type of experiences. And so that's going to legislative session this spring. And I'm sure there'll be a few iterations, but that is possibly coming. And just kind of our message we wanted to share tonight on that. We don't know exactly what it'll look like yet. We've been to trainings, we've been to town halls, things like that around it. However, that whole concept of vibrant learning is what our EDGE program is. So it is so beautiful that however that ends up coming to us, that our balanced focus on the core content that's so important, we can't let these things go,
Right.
Along with those EDGE experiences where kids are doing defenses of learning. Kids have EDGE folders of examples of what we have to submit. Those surveys that just went out to the community staff and students on things like what would you like to see on a dashboard about our students, about our staff, things like that. What do you want to know more about? Our innovation team putting that together. All of those things are already happening, and so it's just going to be another way to share those out. But all of the community involvement, all of the partners, that type of thing, that's already happening. So it'll be sharing it. And so I think that continued focus of really trying to do well in both of those things with the EDGE program and with the core content is really important.
Thank you.
Questions? Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good work. That's what I'm all down.
Great presentation.
Impressive.
Christie, finance report.
So I just want to highlight the revenue part. We have collected approximately 92% of our property taxes. That is motor vehicle, public service, and real property taxes. So really about 97% of real property. So we've collected most of those. And we don't bill for public service until like February or March. So that's later in the year. And then motor vehicle just happens every month. I mean, it depends on your birthday. So when you do that, so it's like even billing time across the year. The only other thing, everything's pacing as we expected. Salaries are like aligned with last year and aligned with our budget, including the 2% plus step increase. Outside services are a little low right now, but it's because we haven't paid our tax collection bill. We got to pay a big bill to them. That'll kind of pop back up. So it's kind of a timing thing. We'll see that kind of come more aligned to what we've been experiencing in the past years. Property services a little off for timing reasons, where we classed some items from last year we reclassed some items in January. So in January you'll start seeing that more aligned. I'm just looking at my little items, but really, like I said, we are pacing as expected to budget and as, compared to what we've done in the past years. There's no surprise. Does anybody have any questions about it? I mean, I can highlight a couple other things, but.
No surprises are good.
Yeah, I know, exactly. No surprises. It is good. Mm-hmm.
That's good.
Thank you, Christie.
Mm-hmm.
Under just a couple updates. The trees are in. The sprinkler system will be complete this week. And once the sprinkler system's in, then we'll work on getting the lights installed in the front lawn. Once the lights are installed, then we move to seeding and landscaping. So, looks good so far, just gotta get it finished up. We got 2x2 walks this week with Amy and Laura this Thursday. Next Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday, a team from the district and buildings are going to Boston to present the EDGE program at Learning Forward. Myself, Sarah, Zach and Alan, building principals with Selena Ballou and Betsy Steckel. So a team of 6 will be heading up to Boston for that. It's nice to be able to showcase the EDGE program on a national stage. And related news, the Link article that came out last week about the program was a good highlight. I think they encapsulated kind of the essence of the program and how it created that balance for students who aren't just academically focused, it's more of a skill-based. So to provide that balance for all students is great. Cell service, we're waiting on the last proposal to come in for the cell service. Once that comes in, then we'll take a look and compare and hopefully get that started in January to get our cell service update. So you all will walk in here and get cellular service on your phones. So will our teachers. I hope, fingers crossed. Construction update. Demo started today. They ripped out the bleachers and the baseball press box. That demolition started today. Waiting on the final drawings from Toad Vine, which is the bleacher company, to get those submitted for permit, and then PDS approves, and then once they get that, then they can start to build. So that's all in process now. On December 8th is when we did the BG. On December 8th was the deadline for them to get those drawings ready. Bond sales, they go up on December 3rd, and run to December 23rd, and that's once they close on the 23rd with whoever they're closed with. That's where the funding will come into play. And then, other than that, for Superintendent, snow. Let's see. I'm gonna wake up. I'm gonna wake up, but Mr. Booth's gonna wake up too. 4:30, get here, check it out, see what we can do. By 5:30, 6 is the deadline. If we're gonna close, you'll know by 6 a.m. It's just the timing of it. It's hard to make the call tonight when it hasn't even started snowing yet, and so we'll get up early. We'll see what work we got to do. Lots have been pre-treated. The sidewalks have been pre-treated. I've talked to a couple other districts that are doing the exact same thing. So we'll get up at 4:30, see what we do, and go until about 5:30. Somewhere between 5:30 and 6, we'll make a call, and if we hear nothing, that means school's on. If we hear something, that means there's either an hour delay or school's closed.
Wow, one day off and having one day at school and then maybe at.
I know.
If Mr. McNabb was still here, he'd just take the football team up to Dixie Highway and clear it for him.
That's right.
Oh,
They should do that.
No, yeah, he took us up, we'd go up there and push cars around, stay in school. Oh, yeah, never go.
But yeah, shout out to the maintenance team. They'll be here at 4:30 in the morning, working hard. Or 4, yeah. 4.
Who's counting?
Yeah.
Already been working, there's already salt down.
True. They're working tonight. They do a good job.
I pay attention, are we supposed to get a look?
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
2 to 4.
Oh, is it now 2 to 4?
4 was the most recent. We'll see.
Yeah.
See what happens, see what sticks. I'm either making a lot of people happy or unhappy tomorrow.
Big deal.
It's a big deal.
That's right, that's very good. Anything else?
I actually had a question. So knowing that in the January meeting when Kyle and I both joined, and that was our first meeting, that was when we elected or appointed like new board chair.
Reorganization.
I'm sorry.
Reorganization?
Yes. So I was just curious how that happens and if there's a discussion that occurs, beforehand, to determine what the plan is for that.
Well, we don't really have anything organized typically. Who is vice chair usually goes up for board chair, I mean, we kind of rotate through. But, yeah. So I don't know, whoever, I guess, puts their name in this.
There's not like a policy. I found that very weird too when I
Yeah.
came on. So
Some,
there's not like
all
a,
districts do it different, like some rotate every year, some, you know, do it every like 3 years, some do it, I mean, it's,
Do we have anything in our bylaws that talk, like, no, okay.
no.
Okay.
Anything else? Okay, we'll take a motion to adjourn. Oh, wait, we need to make a motion, sorry, to make the agenda part of the official board minutes.
I'll make that one.
Okay, I'll second.
Mrs. Berger,
Yes.
Mr. Burns,
Yes.
Mr. Hood, Mrs. Slate, Mrs. Wood.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, and a motion to adjourn.
I'm not doing this one.
I'll make the motion to adjourn.
Thank you.
I will second it.
Say, we always leave that one for you.